Michael Carter had survived war, heartbreak, and years of raising his young son alone, but nothing could have prepared him for the words that stopped his heart in the middle of a crowded park. For little girls, dressed in matching green jackets, stared at the faded compass tattoo on his forearm before one of them stepped closer, pointed with innocent certainty, and quietly said that their mother had the exact same tattoo in the exact same place. Every sound around him seemed to disappear. The laughter of children, the rustling autumn leaves, even his own breathing faded into silence as memories he had buried years ago came rushing back with crushing force. In that single moment, Michael realized the past he believed had died might have been waiting for him all along. Before we continue, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the incredible ways life can surprise us, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment telling us where you're watching from, share this story with someone you love, and subscribe to the channel so you never miss another emotional journey. Michael had lived in Columbus, Ohio, for nearly 8 years. At 38, life had taught him that happiness was usually temporary, but responsibility was forever. After losing his wife Rachel to cancer when their son Noah was only 4 years old, every day became a quiet mission to be both father and mother. He worked long hours as a carpenter, skipped vacations, ignored his own loneliness, and devoted every ounce of energy to giving Noah the stable childhood he deserved. The compass tattoo on his arm had become nothing more than an old memory, something he rarely noticed anymore. Few people knew it represented someone from a chapter of his life long before marriage, before responsibility, before tragedy changed everything. Nearly 15 years earlier, Michael had served with a disaster relief volunteer organization following Hurricane Katrina. During those difficult months, he met a young nurse named Grace Sullivan. She possessed an extraordinary kindness that seemed capable of healing wounded strangers as easily as broken hearts. Together, they worked endless days helping displaced families rebuild their lives. They laughed through exhaustion, shared hopes beneath endless southern sunsets, and eventually fell deeply in love. Before returning to their separate hometowns, they promised each other they would never lose contact. As a symbol of finding their way back to one another no matter where life carried them, they both chose matching compass tattoos. Then life intervened with astonishing cruelty. While driving home after completing another volunteer mission, Grace's bus was involved in a devastating highway accident. News reports listed several passengers as missing and presumed dead after a massive fire. Michael searched hospitals, called agencies, hired investigators, and spent months refusing to believe she was gone. Eventually, every trail ended. Broken beyond words, he accepted what everyone else believed. Grace had died. Years later, he met Rachel, who gently helped him rediscover hope, and although he never forgot Grace, he allowed himself to build another life. Now, sitting in the park with 4 unfamiliar little girls staring at his tattoo, that impossible certainty began to crack. The girls looked no older than 6 or 7. Their blonde curls peeked from beneath identical knit hats, and each carried the same bright curiosity children naturally possess. One girl insisted their mother's tattoo looked exactly like Michael's. Another added that their mother often touched it whenever she became emotional. Michael tried to remain calm, assuming coincidence explained everything. Thousands of people had compass tattoos. Before he could ask another question, a woman hurried toward them from across the playground. She looked exhausted, frightened, and completely unaware that Michael's world had just turned upside down. The moment she stepped into view, Michael forgot how to breathe. Time had added maturity to her face, faint lines around gentle eyes, and longer golden hair than he remembered, but there was no mistake. It was Grace. She froze just as completely as he did. For several endless seconds, neither moved. The children looked back and forth between the silent adults, confused by the overwhelming emotion neither could hide. Grace slowly raised her trembling hand toward the tattoo on Michael's arm before quietly pulling back the sleeve of her own jacket. The same compass, the same design, the same faded ink, the same impossible promise. Neither understood how such a reunion could even exist. Grace finally explained what happened after the accident all those years ago. She had survived, but suffered severe head trauma that erased nearly every memory of her previous life. Without identification, she spent months recovering in rehabilitation centers across several states. Eventually, distant relatives in Montana located her and helped rebuild her life, though the missing years remained blank. She remembered almost nothing except strange dreams involving ocean sunsets and someone laughing beside her. Over time, Grace married a kind schoolteacher named Thomas Sullivan. Together, they welcomed 4 beautiful daughters: Ava, Chloe, Hannah, and Sophie. Their marriage was filled with love until tragedy struck once more when Thomas suffered a fatal heart attack only 18 months earlier. Since then, Grace had relocated to Ohio to accept a nursing supervisor position while trying to provide stability for her daughters. Only recently had fragments of forgotten memories begun returning. Sometimes she would stare at the compass tattoo and cry without understanding why. Sometimes unfamiliar names echoed through her dreams. Sometimes she woke convinced someone important had once loved her deeply. She never imagined that someone would suddenly appear sitting on a park bench holding coffee while watching his son play soccer. Michael listened without interrupting. He felt no anger, no bitterness, only overwhelming gratitude that Grace had lived. He introduced Noah, now 12 years old, who quietly shook Grace's hand with remarkable maturity. Noah had always known about Grace because Rachel believed honesty mattered. She had once told her young son that loving someone before meeting another person never diminished future love. Rachel's wisdom suddenly seemed even greater. During the following months, their lives slowly intertwined, not through romance, but through friendship built upon extraordinary history. Noah became an older brother figure to the girls, helping with homework, coaching soccer, and teaching them woodworking projects inside Michael's garage. Grace admired the compassionate young man Noah had become, while Michael respected the incredible strength Grace displayed raising 4 energetic daughters alone. Neighbors assumed they were already a family. Neither corrected them. Still, emotional wounds remained. Michael struggled with guilt, wondering whether moving forward somehow betrayed Rachel's memory. Grace wrestled with confusion as forgotten memories returned piece by piece, mixing with the beautiful life she had shared with Thomas. One snowy evening, Michael visited Rachel's grave carrying fresh white roses. He confessed every fear aloud. He admitted feeling guilty for smiling again. He apologized for imagining a future that included someone else. As he prepared to leave, Noah quietly approached. Without hesitation, the teenager placed a gentle hand on his father's shoulder. He reminded Michael that Rachel had taught them love was never replaced. It simply grew. People who truly loved us would never ask us to remain lonely forever. Michael cried harder than he had in years. That conversation changed everything. Meanwhile, Grace uncovered an old storage box her aunt had kept since the accident. Inside rested faded photographs, handwritten letters, volunteer badges, and a small silver necklace Michael had given her before they separated years earlier. The missing memories returned like waves crashing onto shore. She remembered every promise, every laugh, every goodbye, every tear. Most importantly, she remembered the man sitting beside her beneath Louisiana sunsets, believing nothing could ever separate them. Life had also somehow brought them back together. Instead of rushing into romance, they chose patience. Families heal slowly. Trust grows naturally. Children deserve certainty. Over the next year, birthdays, school concerts, camping trips, Thanksgiving dinners, and Christmas mornings slowly blended 2 households into one extended family built not by perfection, but by resilience. The girls adored Noah. Noah finally experienced the noisy household he'd secretly wished for after years of quiet evenings. Grace laughed more than she had since Thomas passed away. Michael rediscovered joy without forgetting Rachel. They honored those they had lost while embracing those still beside them. One spring afternoon, exactly 2 years after the unforgettable meeting in the park, Michael returned to the same bench. The cherry blossoms had replaced autumn leaves. The playground echoed with familiar laughter. This time the 4 girls ran toward him shouting "Dad," without hesitation, while Noah rolled his eyes with affectionate embarrassment before smiling anyway. Grace joined them moments later. Michael reached into his pocket. There was no elaborate speech, no dramatic performance, only honesty. He thanked Grace for surviving. He thanked her daughters for unknowingly changing his life with one innocent sentence. He thanked God for proving that even shattered stories can have unexpected chapters. Then he asked Grace to marry him. The girls screamed before she could answer. Noah laughed harder than anyone. Grace's tearful smile gave Michael the answer long before she whispered yes. A year later, during a quiet family gathering, the girls surprised everyone with matching handmade bracelets decorated with tiny silver compass charms. They explained that compasses always point people home, not to buildings, not to cities, but to the people who never stop loving them. Even the strongest adults struggled to hold back tears. Michael often reflected on how close he had come to missing that ordinary afternoon in the park. Had he decided to work overtime? Had Noah skipped soccer practice? Had the girls chosen another playground? None of it would have happened. Life rarely announces miracles. Sometimes they arrive dressed as ordinary moments. Sometimes they begin with the innocent words of children. Sometimes healing waits patiently until broken hearts are finally ready to receive it. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with someone who believes in hope, and subscribe for more unforgettable stories that remind us goodness still exists in the world. Before this story ends, tell us in the comments. Do you believe some people are destined to find each other again, no matter how much time has passed? As the sun disappeared behind the Ohio skyline, 6 children chased one another across the same park where impossible hope had first appeared. Michael and Grace sat quietly on the old bench, their hands resting together. The faded compass tattoos on their arms no longer represented a promise waiting to be fulfilled. They had become proof that even after unimaginable loss, grief, and years apart, love can still find its way home. Sometimes the longest journey is not across states or decades. It is the journey back to hope. And for one single father, for little girls, and a family stitched together by faith, loss, and extraordinary grace, that journey led exactly where it was always meant to end.